Welcome to Wise Wednesday, the podcast that goes beyond the highlight reel to uncover the real stories, the setbacks, the pivots, the long nights, and the moments that make it all worth it. Hosted by Jacob Britton, each episode features honest conversations with creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and out-of-the-box thinkers. Together, they explore not just what these guests do, but how they got there, what they've learned along the way, and the hard-earned wisdom that shapes their journey.
Back to Wise Wednesday, the podcast where we go beyond the highlight reel and talk about the real stuff, the struggles, the pivots, the late nights, and the moments that make it all worth it. I am your host, Jake Britton. Each week, we try to sit down with different creative professionals, business owners, and these out-of-box thinkers to unpack not just what they do, but really how they got there and what they've learned along the way, the wisdom they've picked up. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies that creative courage and business evolution. Haley or Allé Smith is the owner of Open World Design, an international-based content creation studio specializing in marketing strategy through web, print, graphic design, and photography. From helping artist friends in Chicago to building a thriving creative business without a formal degree in the marketing field, her journey is a masterclass in discovery, resilience, and the power of valuing yourself. Allé, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, yeah, we have a lot to catch up on. And, I know a little bit about your story, but we want to get into it, right? We want to understand the journey from the helping artist friends in Chicago to, building a business and working for some of these bigger companies that I know you have. What started your journey and how did you discover, kind of those creative talents along the way?
Yeah, great question. So, like you mentioned at the time, this was about 12 years ago, I was living in Chicago and I was really in that art community. Like, I was in a band, so I was performing. A lot of my friends were artists. So, a lot of people were, well, pretty much all of them were working on some sort of project, creating something, wanting to launch some type of business. And so that was really the community, the world that I was around. And what was interesting during that time, so this was about, 12 years ago, there was also this pressure that everyone was feeling that you need to have a website to legitimize your idea. Like if you didn't have a website, if you did not have a digital presence, like that is what legitimized what you were doing. That was the way that people would be able to find out about you. And so a lot of my friends at the time, some of them didn't have websites or they did and got really overwhelmed with all the different tools and the functionality and how technical it was. And so they really avoided like investing time in their website, even though they knew it was important. They'd probably just throw something basic out there. And what was interesting to me, and I think I learned later, it's how my brain works. I'm half very creative, but I'm very like logical, like analytical, business oriented as well. And so a website essentially encapsulates all of that, right? And it encapsulates the creative side, the visuals of the company, what it represents, but it also represents, all the business to what the concept is. And so I think it just came naturally to me when I would look at their websites and what it was lacking, what didn't make sense. And so really it all started in web design, in an effort to help my artist friends get a better digital presence. And so I firmly believe if something excites you, energizes you, inspires you, to lean into that. And, you'll learn along the way, like, this is a natural talent. This is something that I can actually add value to others, by growing and you're learning in that. And so I really was self-taught. I jumped into all these different web platforms and figured out how to build websites in an effort to help my friends at the time. But I quickly learned that when you have the proper user flow and functionality, and you present a website in a way that connects with people and they see what you're selling in a way that appeals to them, my friends were starting to make money off of the websites that I was, making and fixing for them. So it helped me realize that, I'm adding this value to them, and they started referring me to their friends and family, and it just started to evolve. And that's really where it got started. So it was a very organic, evolution. It's not like I set out to start a business. It just kind of unfolded in that way.
I think that's great, and I also am very self-taught, and everything that we essentially do at Wise Bear. I have a little bit of background in film, but it's like kind of like YouTube University, and just
Yeah.
like figure it out, right?
You just figure it out.
And I think like you do, like you can kind of discover um, creative talents that you didn't even know you had as you just do that. And I think we're coming around to this idea of where like this formal schooling or training like in the space, I think used to be almost like it felt like it was required to like make this a career. But I think that that's like kind of going away, and there's a lot of freelancers that are turning this more into a for lack of a better term, a serious company or a serious business, making it a business. What was like that turning point for you when you said to yourself, all right, I've been helping some friends and artists, but I want to take this a little bit more seriously. I want to create open world. Was there a certain kind of pivot point that made you, turn that point?
Yeah. So, what I'm really thankful for, when I was really in that art community at the time, like you said, this idea of needing to go to school for something, art, in and of itself, it's something you just create out of nothing. Like, you don't necessarily need to go to school to become an artist. Like, art is something you can just be and do. And so I think that being around that all the time and seeing people just start projects because they're passionate about it, they're interested in it, they want to share these gifts with the world, was really inspiring to me. And what helped me pursue this and take it more seriously, and the turning point to turn it into a business really came down to the amount of time that it was taking to work on these projects. It was very quickly, like, I was getting tons of referrals, and they were, like I said earlier, making money off of my work. And I started off doing, just free work, which helped build my portfolio. But I realized very quickly, like I said, the amount of time that this was taking to dedicate to this, the value that it was adding to their business endeavors, that can only get you so far when you're just building your portfolio and willing to do whatever it takes. You'll start to get burned out, um, and you need to value yourself to for other people to continue to value your work as well. And so that's what helped me see that I need to start charging people for the work that I'm doing. And for me, for some reason, I think it's because, like, I didn't go to business school. I didn't set out to start a business. For me, it was a hard concept to start charging people for something that I enjoyed doing so much. Like, it was a creative outlet for me, because I was getting into photography, realizing these websites were lacking, high quality photos for their web content, for their promotional pieces. And so incorporating photography into it and logo design. And so it was a creative outlet. And so when I started charging clients, I was scared. Like, I had a legit fear that people wouldn't want to do business with me anymore. But I was surprised they actually saw me as more valuable and really legitimized, what I was doing, what I was offering. And so, um, And so, yeah, that really helped me to see that you have to value yourself and see that in you. And that's what's going to help you grow and be able to give more to your client at the same time. So,
Yeah, and I think like I love what you said about clients even honestly like maybe seeing the value more once you started charging for it, because
yeah.
I can remember, there was a time for me where, you kind of just said yes to everything and you just kind of, how much do you want to pay even? Like,
Right.
I'll figure it out. I don't know. Cause like you do, like, I think, I was having a conversation with another guest where it was like, like you kind of wear this stuff, right? Like when you're helping somebody like grow their business and do something that they're so passionate about, and you're helping them with a website or photo, right? It's like, it's hard to like not go above and beyond. It's hard not to like, it's kind of hard for me to shut it off sometimes too. And
Mhm.
I think like, you got to equate that into like how you're, valuing yourself. It's like, yeah, you're giving them this finished product, right? But you're also like giving them this finished website, but you're also like giving them the strategy behind it and turning it into a tool for their business and making them see that value early on. I think is like super critical to
Yes.
like start a really good relationship. And I also think it's super critical for like your own creative endeavors to, I think it's a milestone, right? For like learning that you can charge what you're worth, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and I think that shift happens when you're mentally and maybe even just like, uh, like practically there, right? Like, so there's like this mental shift of like, okay, I'm doing this. I love it, but not everyone can do this. This is a unique skill and I need to start charging accordingly. How do you feel like maybe that
Exactly.
shift happened with you?
Well, I think too, for me, when you start charging people for your services, it actually makes you run your business a lot more efficiently because now you need to really decide how you're going to spend your time. I think when you're starting out a business, like you said earlier, at least for me too, I was willing to say yes to everything. Like there's a lot of things what my business is now is a lot more defined versus how it started out. Like, because I would say yes to anything and everything. But when I started charging people for my work, it forced me to really decide what do I actually care about the most? What are the services that I think are the most valuable, that I enjoy doing the most? Because now I'm charging them. I need to be more specific to my offerings, and it just makes everything a lot more efficient. It makes it more clear to them what they can expect out of me. It allows you to plan the project out better. And so it helps you define really what your niche is too. When you
Hmm.
start charging clients, what do you want to specialize in? But when you're willing to say yes to everything and do it for free, that's very hard to communicate to people. Like, what do you do? And you can get pulled in way too many different directions doing it that way as
Yeah.
well. And
And
so,
I think it's just like a recipe for burnout. I'm
yeah.
really guilty of experiencing some of that burnout, like not even that long ago, where it's like, yeah, saying yes to everything, and maybe even less than that, but like just saying yes to the low hanging fruit, like the low budget stuff, the maybe a little bit more needy client or like a project that wasn't aligned with what I was really good at, like you
Mhm.
said, kind of figuring out your niche.
Yeah.
And I think like sometimes like, yeah, like figure out the niche, step into it is a really good process. If you're like at a starting point, right? Like say there's a creative out there who's kind of doing what we just talked about, right? They're saying yes to the $100 website builds, for example, or whatever, and they're
Uh-huh.
undervaluing your work. Where do they start? Where does they start with changing that mindset and like, putting on the I'm going to take myself a little bit more seriously hat?
Definitely. Well, I would say you really need to look at the amount of time that it takes for you to do these projects. How much time are you actually dedicating to your clients? How big are they? I've worked on projects that last an entire year. I've worked on projects that are just a quick, couple weeks long thing. And so I think looking at the scope of the projects and having that reality check of like how much time you are dedicating to this project, this service offering. And, like I said earlier, like facing that fear and taking it away that people are not going to want to work with you just because you're going to charge more. Your value does show in how much you say that your services cost. Sometimes it's not really a benefit to just do cheap work all the time. I have found that you end up working with clients that you don't necessarily want to work with. And so when you're going to do it that way. And so when you pick a price point that feels like, this does actually, show value to what I am offering, it brings in the types of clients that you actually want to work with. And that's what I have found. My client base used to be very wide, and it's gotten more and more defined as I've defined my price range. And I really enjoy who my clients are, the projects that we work on. I have, the time and the energy to dedicate to them that I want to. And so, it's a win-win for you and the client.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. And you talk about like starting with your musician buddies in Chicago, and now having a business that actually does work internationally, and you have this network and relationships and past clients and current clients and old musician friends that are probably still referring you out, right? How do you feel like that network and those relationships you've built over the years, how important has that been for your quote unquote success?
Well, it's incredible. Honestly, the people I've met throughout this process, this endeavor, have been the greatest experience and the value in it for me, is the relationships that have been built. And, like I said earlier, with defining, when you start to charge, it forces you to define your business a lot more, your service offerings. That has allowed me to start networking with people that do specialize in things that maybe I used to do, but I'm not really passionate about those things anymore. And I don't get that many requests for it anymore. I will sometimes, but when those opportunities come up, I love the fact that I can refer them to my network of people. I can pass them off to another company that specializes in that service offering. And, that's incredibly valuable as well. I think in the beginning, when people start their businesses, they feel like they need to be the ones that do it all and know it all, but you will limit your network, with that kind of mindset. I love the collaborative mindset, finding people that are really passionate about things that I know how to do, but to them, it's their thing, and ultimately that helps the client. Like I want the client to have an incredible experience, an incredible final product. And if that means, I work on a small piece of it and I can refer them to somebody that specializes in another area, the client's going to, you'll end up getting more referrals doing it that way because you'll see yourself as a resource for them. And so that community, that network is essential for growing your business and thriving in, what expertise you have. You can focus more on that versus just trying to do it all the time. So yeah.
I absolutely loved everything you just said, and I think I could, basically say same, right? Like it's been, the collaborative process and the collaborative network of friends and relationships and co-creators has been, honestly, just like such a blessing for me, and like just the way that I've been able to grow the business through that network. And we kind of say something here at Wise Bear, right? It's like collaboration over competition, right? Like
Absolutely.
it's not about who can do what or who's your one-stop shop. And it's not about Wise Bear being that one-stop shop, although we do like market ourselves as like a full service agency right on our website, right? There's like a trusted partners page.
Yeah.
right on the homepage. We talk about how it's not just Jake on a laptop, but like we're literally have a network of wise bears, in our network that we can refer to who are specialists in. One's just for copywriting, one's just for photo, one's just for branding, one's just for, and that way we're giving them the most bang for their buck, and we're giving them an expert in each part, each element that goes into building something like a website or a new brand or what
Absolutely.
have
And
you.
your business, it's set up differently than mine. I think like you hire people as well. Like that can be a turning point in your business of like, we get requests. We want to be that one-stop shop. Who can I hire and bring on my team, and relieve yourself. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start out, they think that they have to do it all, right?
Yeah.
But that can be a moment where you realize I need to hire somebody.
Yeah.
I need to expand my network. I would love to refer them to somebody if you don't want to, hire someone or develop your team that
Absolutely. Like
way. So
I couldn't, yeah, like 100%. And I think like for me, like the turning point was like, all right, if I don't hire someone, this business is running me. I'm not running a
it's
business.
gonna crash. Yeah.
I'm just good. Like I've already done that once, right? Like let's not
Yeah.
do it again. Let's add a layer, right? And I think honestly for me, like I started looking at it, it's like I'm a creative person. I want to like do some of these projects. I love getting my hands on it, but I can't do it all. Yes, I'm trying to grow a business, but like if I'm not scratching my creative itch, if I don't find some sort of balance between like running the business and actually doing the creative work that made me start this business in the first place,
Yes.
I'm gonna fall. How do you maybe find that balance of like still passionately pursuing, creative work and still, growing your business?
Yeah. I would say as I look back on how my business has evolved, it is being sensitive to where are you starting to feel that burnout? Where are you starting to feel like, okay, I'm not feeling the passion. I'm not feeling that inspiration behind this, service offering that I've been doing. That's really a moment to reflect on, is this something that I just want to let go of and not make it a part of what my business offers? Or is this a moment where I want to expand my network? I want to hire somebody. And then that frees up your time to dedicate to the things that you are passionate about. Allowed me to focus more on photography. It's allowed me to focus more on, logo creation. And those are the things that I get really excited about. I enjoy doing. I can knock out those projects a lot quicker. The client's happier in the end. So I think it's being sensitive to like when, as creatives, like you need that energy to put into, that medium, that outlet for your best work to come out. So you need to make space for that and allow yourself to say no to things, be done doing things that don't, allow you to do that. So
Yeah, and making space for it can sometimes be hard. And like I know I'm always trying to learn, I'm trying to evolve. Like right now I'm doing this whole like AI how AI is changing SEO, and I'm doing this whole class through SEMrush about it, right? And I'm doing that after quote unquote work hours, right? Like but like what are you learning right now? What are you working on either, as a creative passion or a personal project? What are you up to?
So that's funny you say AI. That's such a big topic right now. I've been trying to learn about AI. I think it's an incredibly helpful tool in a lot of ways. Our world is moving so fast that AI, and like as creatives, when you're a business owner, sometimes you can feel spread thin, like you are working on a lot of things. Um, I have found that using AI on certain projects in a certain way can help projects move quicker. When it comes to copy, it's changing, like you said, SEO, how websites are being read, and so what search engines value when it comes to content. And so, you do need to adapt to these things that are coming out on the market because they're driving the market, whether we like it or not. It was like when people realized, you need to have a website to really legitimize your business. Like
Yeah.
that changed the trajectory of the market and businesses and how people do business. All of a sudden, everybody had to specialize in how do I sell products online, right? So I'm glad you brought up AI because I think it can be a very valuable tool. I think it's important to learn about before judging it too quickly and saying, well, what can I learn from this? What do I need to be aware of, with that type of tool? So
Yeah, and
that's a big one.
I loved what you said about AI because it's like it is just a tool, right? Like
It's a
it's
tool.
not it's used in a proper way. Like it automates, it really helps things go a lot quicker, like you said, and it's a great tool to brain dump and kind of organize the strategy. And then from like a SEO standpoint, obviously, tools like Gemini and like Google being king, right? Like they're scanning websites, as you mentioned, really to answer for Gemini questions. So if you're not optimizing copy on your website in order for Gemini to scan it and, help rank it, you're going to kind of fall behind, right? And that's one thing. That's one thing that I'm like really adamant about in our onboarding process is, okay, I'm not this expert in it. I'm learning it, but we have somebody who already really understands it. He's a trusted partner. He's a strategist. And yeah, we're going to build your website. We're going to revamp your content strategy to make sure tools like Gemini and AI and ChatGPT are, actually reading it and referring to you as that trusted source, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, it's a tool. And like you said, like back in the day, you needed to have a website. Well, now you need to make sure your website's optimized for AI.
Right. It is what it is, so.
Yeah, it really is.
And yeah.
No, this has been fun, and we have a couple like final thought questions. Because I think like the goal of this is always right. Who are you? Where are you from? What's some just wisdom that you've picked up along the way? And you've shared a lot, right? You've shared a lot about your professional life, some personal stuff, and then also just like your creative journey. But if you had to distill everything down, and this is one of those loaded questions, right? But everything down, everything that you've learned, distill it all down, professionally, personally, creatively, into one core truth at this point in your life, what would that truth be?
I love that. So I would say, and this is funny, like this came from an uninspiring moment, but it really changed how I do business and how I try to live out everything that I do. I remember when I first got my business started, one of my clients, she was, a friend of mine as well. I was building all these websites, for all these people, just really promoting the importance of having a website, high quality website. And she noticed that I didn't have a website for my own business. And she was like, so you're just promoting to all of us that we need websites and you don't even have one. And, I was just so busy, like things were happening so fast. And I was like, yeah, that's embarrassing. But I will get on that. But it helped me realize that, it wasn't done intentionally, but what you say you believe in will only take you so far. Your actions, how you live it out, that needs to match what you say. Integrity to me is the most important thing. Like living by what you say is important. Letting people see that your life reflects those beliefs. And that works in personal life and in business. And so that moment was just a funny revelation of, what you say you believe only takes you so far. And yeah, and I think that in business, like especially marketing, they'll trust what you say. You can present it really well and sell them something. But living it out, customers can feel that too. They can sense that integrity behind what you're selling really quickly. So yeah, living by what you say.
I love that. Yeah, and that is something that, yeah, like you said, customers can sniff it out, right?
Yeah.
Like we say, like it's kind of like no fluff.
Yeah,
marketing,
exactly.
transparent reporting. Like these are some of the things that we mentioned to our customers to just show like, hey, not only do we could sell you this, it's like educate you on it, but like we're actually doing this for our own stuff. We're doing it for our own website, and we try to do it in our own lives, right? And I think that's so important. So, well, Allé, thank you so much for hopping on Wise Wednesday. It has been great catching up, and I just know that you and I are going to collaborate more in the future, and looking forward to those projects. But any final comments to our listeners?
Well, thank you for having me on here. I appreciated your grit. I think, you've inspired me, how you've put yourself out there. You've maintained what you're passionate about and living that out in your work and your offerings to your clients. Like you're one of those people that kept me going. And so I would say for everybody, just be really aware of who you surround yourself with, and take hold of those opportunities to work with people, to collaborate with people, to just start projects and see where it goes, and where it's going to take you. So yeah, thank you for being a part of that.
Well, that means a lot. And same. So I appreciate everything that you've done. And yeah, like I said, the collaboration is just getting started. So looking forward to more of that. And to our listeners out there, we're going to be doing another episode next week, every Wednesday at 8 a.m. And stay tuned for a guest lineup for the rest of the year. And thanks for tuning in.
All right. Love it.